Can I get you to go ahead and say and spell first and last name for me, please?
Sure. Benjamin, Benjamin, Westhoff, Westhoff.
So you were saying that your background, or your current practice at least, is kind of you deal more for workers' rights and the issues that they might have. Talk to me a little bit about your practice and what you kind of do.
Yeah, so I'm with the firm of Sadeh Harper Westhoff, and we are a firm in St. Louis that specializes in workers' rights and bringing cases and lawsuits for employees who have been either discriminated against or wrongfully terminated or harassed at work. And so we're generally on the side of the employee in disputes with employers.
And so as people start to go, as the state is reopened, what are some of the things that people should be thinking about if they're an employee and their business is reopening?
Well, one of the things to immediately keep in mind if you're the employee returning to work is that you do, under federal law, have the right to a safe workplace. And the OSHA regulations are still in place regarding safety in the workplace. So employee returning to work and you notice that social distancing isn't being maintained, or you proper safety equipment, then that's in the workplace, and you have concerns, then certainly you should raise those with your employer, preferably in writing, so that you have it documented. And if the employer does not address those concerns, then you should raise them with OSHA, and you can file a complaint through OSHA and go to OSHA.gov and follow the process to file a complaint. But I would first recommend raising it with the company, with the employer, in an effort to resolve it.
Is there a time frame that if I had an issue and I presented that to my employer, that reasonably or legally that I should expect some kind of response within a certain time frame?
Well, if you have, so the employer should, they're not under a deadline that I'm aware of under federal law, and I'd have to check just to make sure that that's absolutely accurate, but they should respond promptly. I mean, anytime you raise, particularly a written concern with an employer, the best practice for the employer and for the human resources of that employer would be to respond promptly. I would expect a response within 10 to 14 days, at least some preliminary response that they're going to be looking into it, and then hopefully a substantive response within 14 days to 30 days. But it should be, if you're raising a safety concern under OSHA, it should be promptly addressed. So I would expect an immediate response if I was the employee. And if I didn't get that immediate response, I would go to OSHA.
Got you. So when people are going to work, you mentioned PPE. Should they be expecting that's provided for them? Should they be expected to bring their own?
They should expect the employer to provide safety equipment and the proper protective safety equipment. And if the employer is not providing the proper safety equipment, gloves, masks that they think is reasonable to protect them in the workplace, then again, that's where they would raise the issue with the employer.
Okay, and so when we were just talking on the phone earlier, you were mentioning that the CARES Act still is in effect, right? So what would that, how might that help out somebody if they aren't able to return to work?
Well, so the one law that was put into place at the end of March and it took effect April 1st is something called the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. It's related to the CARES Act. It was passed by the federal government along with the CARES Act in response to the pandemic. And that's going to be in effect until the end of the year. And what's important for people to remember there is that it still allows for 10 days of paid leave. If you're working for a company that's got 500 or less employees, then that company will be covered by this new law. If you become sick, if you return to work and you start to develop COVID symptoms, then you can tell your company, I need to potentially take this paid sick leave for 10 days because I'm experiencing symptoms and I'm going to go and consult with my doctor about it. If you have a family member that's experiencing symptoms and been told to be quarantined, you can also get the paid emergency leave. So I would look into that paid emergency leave if going back start experiencing symptoms or someone in your family does.
So I know this isn't something we talked about on the phone, but it just kind of made me think too. If you're currently on unemployment and your business reopens, but you feel like you can't go back to work, are you still able to collect any money under unemployment, or do you know how that works out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I just had a person call me with that question last week. I can tell you that if you are currently receiving unemployment and your company reopens and they offer you your job back, you should take the job, because you will be ineligible for continued unemployment if you have a reinstatement opportunity available at your old company and they offer you the job back and you refuse it.
Okay, got you. I guess there's been a lot of, I'm sure a lot of people have been asking you, because this is such uncharted territory, for your opinion on some of these matters. And I know you said you even gave a presentation. What has that been like for you guys in this field? Are you kind of seeing how it goes and learning new things every day, or, what's it been like for you guys?
Exactly as you say, Sarah. We've been seeing how it goes and learning new things, because these laws are brand new and they're big federal laws, especially this FFCRA, Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Since it's brand new, there's guidance yet from the Department of Labor and the EEOC. We're guidance each week on how things are going to resume and what employers can do. And so there will be a lot of learning as we're going here. And there's a lot of people, of course, that are concerned about going back to work. What's going to happen? How does my unemployment work? So it is an uncertain time in the law in many ways. And of course, that breeds some anxiety.
I think that's probably all I had to ask. Is there anything that you want to add that people should know?
No, I think the only other thing I would say is what I mentioned over the phone, which is that when returning back to work, do not be surprised if your employer takes your temperature or asks you if you have COVID-related symptoms. I would expect that, and they will be allowed to do that. And so you should be forthright and cooperate. And if you feel sick, speak up.
Are there any kind of legal repercussions for employees who knowingly go to work when they have maybe a COVID-19 positive diagnosis or anything like that?
Well, that's a good question too. If you are told by your company you need to report symptoms to us if you show up and you are sick, and you knowingly fail to do that, then I would be concerned about the employer rightfully telling them, look, we gave you a directive to report these symptoms and you didn't do that. And so we're gonna have to let you go. Now, would companies do that? There might be some concerns that companies have with letting someone go who's become down with COVID-19. But I would be concerned that you failed to follow the directive and that the employer is legitimate and for disciplining you for failing to follow the directive of telling them if you're sick. So that would be my concern, and that's why I would counsel people to be, of course, forthright and honest with their company if they think that they are at all sick to raise their hand.
Gotcha. Well, Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. I really appreciate it. The governor is making his announcement later today. We're going to cover that in different ways at 4, 5, and 6. Probably, I'm sure they're going to carry some of that over into 10 as well. So I'm not entirely sure how this is all going to get kind of out there right now, but it's also entirely possible that when a lot more of this will be on the website and maybe even the full interview, stuff like that. Sure. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Good luck with everything. I hope you are staying safe as well.
You too. Thank you, Sarah.
All right. Thanks. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.